fact, some of my sisters met him at a seminar one time. They sat next to him for like 4 days, and he didn't say too much. In fact, my sister said, we weren't sure if he could talk. Like, yeah, he can. He just chooses not to often. I love that guy. I sure
do
love
too.
Daddy Bill. So that's your dad. And let's now go a little broader, go 30,000 feet and say, last time we talked about how this universal mother is compassionate, she's nurturing. Talk to me a little bit about what this universal father that lives in all of us, regardless of whether you have children, regardless of what gender you are, or what gender you're not. This is something that is this pattern. You know, we talk about archetypes, and whether we go back to psychology and Jungian psychology, or even Tony will talk about this basis of so much intelligence is really just pattern recognition. So these archetypes that have been around in mythology and psychology and still exist today, whether it's father, mother, child, teacher, scribe, king, queen, sage, mystic. I mean, the list goes on, but there's some real basic ones. One is the father. What, Sage, would you say are some fundamental aspects of the universal father archetype?
Well, gosh, speaking of archetypes, I just have to reference that, you know, all the metaphors that you gave, all the stories in the sacred texts, you know, they're all a reflection of what's available inside of us. And Mary did such a beautiful job representing that, you know, no matter what gender we come in, that both energies are available within us. And so, you know, when I think of that energy within inside me, I'll speak for myself as a woman. You know, that masculine presence or energy feels clarity, responsibility, strength, and yet not just physical strength, you know, strength of focus, determination, resilience, and creative energy, like creation of fruition of seeing something through, is where I recognize that energy within inside myself. And I recognize and appreciate that energy within these beautiful men that God has placed around me, including my father.
That's right. And you speak to this wholeness and this harmony that is within all of us. It's the yin and yang, whatever words you want to put to it. But these are undeniably within all of us on some spectrum, sliding scale, however you see it, that we have access to in moments when we need it. And if the feminine is traditionally this cyclical thing, the masculine is traditionally this linear, it's structured, it brings order. So, Sage, I ask you, we're just new mothers. Tony this is the first little baby that you and Tony have together. We're seeing Tony as a father of a little child for the first time. Tony Robbins is a phenomena. Anybody who's listening is a fan of his, I would guess. And he is such a force. What can you tell folks, though, about who shows up here at home when this little baby crawls into the room?
Well, Tony is definitely, he is a force of nature and has a vast embodiment and expression of masculine energy and all those attributes that we just described. And beautifully, he's probably one of the most tender-hearted, in tune, sensitive, connected men that I've ever met. He's such a softie. He's the first one to cry in movies or watching a commercial, or if he's reading, maybe somebody, writes a letter of gratitude or something of how his path or his work or his mission has impacted somebody. Tony will be sitting there weeping. I mean, he has that beautiful sensitivity. It's actually one of the things I love about him is he has like extremes, and then there's, you know, the extreme of the masculine, extreme of this access to this, you know, sensitivity and feminine energy. And yet in that middle point, what I consider to be tone, just the guy that's here in this home, that's a father, his love and care and sensitivity and service.
Even how you refer to Tone, like you called Tony here in the house, Tony is Tone.
Tone. Yes.
Out there in the world, we know that he's Tony Robbins, banana hands, that 6'7" hulking mass. But here in the house, like just as an example, this happened last night. True story. Tony is going to see the Celtics Warriors game. So if you're tuned in to the NBA Finals, you might see a crazy man. I'm a super fan. That's Tony Robbins for sure. But he, when he was traveling, baby monitors have evolved and such now that they're apps on your phone. And so Tone called Sage last night as we were putting baby down, and baby was going to bed. Maybe had a little moment. She's teething, and so Tone called us nearly in tears, like, "Hey, I was just watching the baby monitor. You guys, is she okay? She's really crying." And I don't know that people would know that guy, this guy that we know and love so much, has access to all these different parts of him.
One of the beautiful gifts of the masculine is because, a lot of times it's portrayed as something else. A lot of times in society, it can be portrayed as, dominance or possessiveness, or, you know what I mean? More that
aggression warrior,
yeah,
but that's
aggression.
One facet of it only.
Well, it's just like, in both perspectives, there's unconscious parts, in both perspectives, can be unconscious or conscious. And I think one of the beautiful aspects of the masculine is actually the servitude to his beloveds, to his family, to his community. And watching Tone at this stage of his life father and love our little one it's just such a sweet space. It's such a unexpected tenderness, and yet not unexpected, because I experienced that with my own father. That strength and that juxtaposition of strength and sweetness, strength and tenderness. I think it's such a beautiful portrayal. And a lot of times as human beings, we can get locked, or out of balance would be probably more accurate.
Out of balance, maybe another way to say it is overuse or
yes,
overdependence
that would be
on
more,
one
yes.
stripe.
Yes.
Okay.
And yet when I recognize with inside myself, or even with inside Tony, or even my own father, it's that middle ground, of not this or that, but both perspectives. I think what was so beautiful by a lot of individuals, a lot of men specifically that listened to our previous conversation about motherhood, was them recognizing that energy within inside themselves. And, you and I spoke about this, and it just felt the freedom that it gives, that it's like, gosh, this isn't gender dependent. And any great warrior, that has a lot of that yang energy,